So Bandai have finally done it. They've gone and announced a new perfect grade, and it's not just any perfect grade, it is the 1/60th scale Nu Gundam Unleashed. Apparently it's going to be coming out sometime this year, and honestly, I knew they were going to do it for two reasons. One, it's the 45th anniversary of Gunpla and we're due a perfect grade. Two, I just took the plunge and bought this. Typical, right? Of course it would happen now. So this right here is the most expensive Gundam figure ever produced. Retailing at over 100,000 yen, this is the metal structure 1/60th scale Nu Gundam. As big as a perfect grade, fully finished out of the box, and including a full hangar display. This is the most impressive, expensive Gundam figure of all time. Now you might have noticed two particular things I said there. I said Gundam figure, because you can also get Sazabi. That's more expensive, it's just not a Gundam. 100,000 yen expensive? That's only about $670 for such a very nice figure. That's not that crazy. And you are right, it isn't. If you could get one, this had extremely limited stock. But when it comes to the aftermarket prices, now it's pricey as hell. $2,000! Did I mention this video right here is sponsored by BUYEE? Had to be. Link in description, by the way. Also, I will explain how to use BUYEE a little bit later on so you can actually learn how to use it to find the best prices for the different Gundam kits, Gundam models, and Gundam figures that you want. But first, let's get this absolutely beautiful figure out of the box. Alright, so at this point I'm going to give you a little bit of a primer on how to use BUYEE. Basically, if you want to buy yourself something like the metal structure Nu or something a little bit on the rare side and you want to know actually how to take a look on there, find it, and get the best possible prices. So first off, let's just get into how I found the Nu Gundam. As far as I remember, I got it right here on J Direct Shopping, right here. Sometimes you can just straight up write it in English like that, metal structure, Nu Gundam, and it may work, and sometimes it may not. So sometimes you're gonna actually have to find the Japanese for what you're looking for, and one good way is to just go on over to the Awesome Gundam Wiki. They always have the Japanese for whatever particular mobile suit in question, so there is our Nu Gundam, so you just copy that right there, jump on over. Thankfully the metal structure is actually just written in English, so you can just pop it in like that. Anyway, I will have this down in the description for you to copy paste if you need to. Then they will just pop up just like this, a whole bunch of different versions. I will mention it is easier to get the Nu Gundam than the Sazabi because it was released twice. Now be careful, there are some aspects that you might be like, oh, $400, that's great. That is a part set, so there is a separate part set sold separately. So all you get inside the box is the funnels for the wing funnel system and a little bit of a stand for round back. Basically to pop that up on the Nu. There is also a second box of optional parts. That is these ones right here with a different shield, different beam rifle, some extra guys, and these huge awesome aspects for up on the backpack. I actually love this. Now I want to buy it. But yeah, the correct one you're looking for will definitely be in the much more expensive zone like this one right here. Basically you find it, add it to your cart, and basically you'll be proceeding to your order from there. Then when it comes to BUYEE, it will pop right here in your packages, and then you'll just be paying the shipping from in here. Now, I will mention this is not an accurate cost of shopping for Nu because this item right here is this super cute little depressed Gundam I won in an auction. Basically, you jump into the shipping, select the shipping that you want, and if you're curious as to how much it costs for me to ship the Nu Gundam to me, it cost 19,300 yen, which is $129, but I did send it by EMS, which is a little bit more on the pricey side. But as for another little bit of a BUYEE breakdown, and just in case you're looking for other things, we've got the J Direct Auctions, which is Yahoo Auctions. Basically, it's a usual online auction and you just bid on things. My favorite keyword here is Gunpla junk. This isn't actually junk, it's just junk by Japanese perspectives, so it just means some parts might be missing. When it comes to Gunpla, they may be pre-built, but you can definitely grab yourself some awesome little bargains, especially if you are a custom builder. Basically, you can get lots of Gunpla like this, which is a bunch of parts and bits and bobs, which are always good for custom builds. So yeah, Gunpla junk. Next up is J-Direct Items Shopping. This is just Yahoo Japan. We basically saw this already. It's where I found the Nu Gundam. It's a great place to find some great Japanese shops like Surugaya, Kembil, SPW, Ami. There's a whole ton on here. Always great prices too. Next up is Rakuten. Again, let's just go for HG 1144. This is laid out a little bit different. Again, great prices, a lot of trusted Japanese stores, and I prefer this because it doesn't actually show sold out items on here, which sometimes you might see on the J-Direct. Again, absolutely phenomenal, proper Gunpla prices. Next up then is Mercari. This is my favorite by a long shot, mainly because it's just people selling their stuff, so there is a lot of bargains to be had. Sometimes some people do sell items in lots, which is nice. Again, the prices are very, very good. Usually it's people just trying to shift stuff they have that they don't necessarily want, or sometimes bought and feel a little bit guilty about. Sometimes there's nice little combos like this high-grade Kshatriya and an action base. Basically, someone bought both of them, obviously didn't want them anymore, and you can buy them. Actually, I'm tempted to get this one myself. So yeah, when it does come to Gunpla, they're the ones I tend to stick to. So once again, J-Direct Auctions, J-Direct Shopping, Mercari, and Rakuten. Again, if you're looking for the Nu Gundam metal structure we're taking a look at today, I recommend the J-Direct. So finally now jumping into the aesthetics, and there's the metal structure Nu Gundam out of the box in all of its glory. Now, one thing I will say, especially with figures, it does go with Gunpla as well, as you don't really get any kind of feeling for just how marvelous they actually look when you see pictures. So I'm going to try and get in as close and as perfect with this thing as absolutely possible, so you can kind of get the grandeur of this majestic beast. It is so perfect. So first off, this is what it looks like right out of box. So this is an absolutely premium format figure. It's got everything going on. Even just the overview of it right here, this is absolutely massive. All the proportions are absolutely perfectly perfect, and honestly, it just looks jaw-dropping. The overall silhouette perfect. This is Nu Gundam in all of its glory, and of course, compared to what we would have seen in the actual movie, it's got a lot more additional detail, and even more than you see right here, because this does have a lot of opening hatch gimmicks. It's got a cool psycho frame underneath everything else, but in its standard state right here, it still looks amazing. If you get in extremely close on this, there's so many little details. The surface has been painted absolutely perfectly. No flubs, no factory scratches or nub sort of aspects sometimes you might see on some figures. The decaling on it is absolutely perfect. It's also flush to the paintwork, so it just looks painted on. All of the minor little details all over it are great. We've got multiple types of paint. We've got metallic, we've got pearlescent, we've got the nice flat matte on the white, which is broken up into white and light gray, as well as the dark almost black of the Nu Gundam's secondary color. One of the Nu Gundam's most iconic aspects is its regal face structure, and they really did pull it off perfectly on this. The Nu Gundam has lots of different variants out there, some with kind of a different style to the way the head looks, but this does it and does it the correct way. It's long, structured, and that double V fin pops so perfectly. Honestly, this right here is one of those figures that I could just go on for hours and hours about the minutiae, all the detail that's going on here, so I'll just try to make sure the footage is nice enough so you can see absolutely every aspect. But one of the biggest questions definitely I had about this is just how big is a 1/60th scale Nu Gundam? Whether you want to get one of these for yourself or if you're going to be waiting for this year's release of the 1/60th scale Gunpla version. So there it is beside a high grade, so it is absolutely massive. I'll throw a master grade and a perfect grade into this situation right there as well, and right beside even the RX-78-2 Unleashed, this is a behemoth. So this is what you'll be expecting from the Gundam kit. Just imagine that big old wing up on its shoulder. This is absolutely incredible and monolithic. Now this right here is an expensive figure, especially at the aftermarket rate, so you might be wondering, is there any kind of negative aspects to this figure visually? And if I had to nitpick, I would say there is one, and that is there are some seam lines in places I wouldn't like to see them. For example, inside the knees on the metal parts you can see some seam lines, but the ones that kind of fuck me off the most are the ones on the fingers. These really should not be there. You can't really see them from a distance, but it is a little bit disappointing. Again, you could consider it to be some kind of mechanical thing. I can't personally. But overall, this does look incredible. That's just a minor nitpick. So next up, jumping on into the articulation, and when it came to things I personally wondered about this particular figure before I actually grabbed myself one was, on top of how big is it, it's how much can this pose? To me, posability is one of the most important aspects of a figure or a model kit. I want to get things into over-the-top poses. Now, if you're into posability above all, this figure may not be for you because it is not its strongest aspect. However, it does make up for it in a different kind of way, which I'll mention a little bit later on. But overall, this is basically a statue. There is some aspects that do move around a little bit, but not too much. At all of the main joints on this, the neck, shoulders, arms, legs, all of that, we've got very basic articulation, just, well, the absolute minimum. However, when it does come to the hands, these are quite nicely articulated. Not as much as you would see on a perfect grade. There is only 2 joints to each finger instead of 3, but you can pull off the most important pose here, which is always a super plus. However, when it does come to the range of motion of all the joints on this beast, which I will mention is super heavy, well, the range of motion is quite minimal or non-existent at most aspects. Now, just trying to get this into the most kind of over-the-top and expressive pose I can out of this, that right there is the best that you can do. So this is not for the posers, but where this kit kind of slums it when it comes to articulation, it does make up with a different kind of articulation. This kit has multiple opening hatches all over the place, 2 levels of opening hatches at that. One to basically get it into its psycho frame mode, and the other is all the maintenance hatches, which we will take a little look at later on when we've got this onto the hangar base. And speaking of which, it's time to get into box number 2, which is even bigger than box number 1. Let's get it unboxed. When it does come to the accessories that come with the metal structure Nu Gundam, we get a lot in here, 3 trays to be exact, 2 of which are dedicated to the hangar, 1 to the weapons and equipment, and that's what we're going to be taking a look at first. First up in here, we've got the Nu Gundam's beam rifle, and even at first glance, this is absolutely gorgeous. In a matching color scheme to the unit itself, we've also got some nice little aspects to this, including some silver paint recessed into the details on it, as well as on all of the kind of metallic aspects. Now, at first this just looks like your standard Nu Gundam rifle, but it just has so much going on, including ridiculous levels of detail. First off, we've got this moving rail section up top, which moves up and out like this. A barrel extending gimmick that you just pull on like this, and 2 little flaps flap out from the bottom, looking glorious. The grip can be pulled down and out just like so on this rubberized little section, so you can see into the internals of that. And one of my favorite aspects when it does come to mecha weaponry is a removable magazine. Now this is definitely unique because it does look like there's something akin to bullets inside of it, even though this is an energy weapon. It does look incredibly cool, but I'm not exactly sure of the ins and outs of how the Nu Gundam's weapon actually works in regard to these bullet looking aspects. Looks beautiful though. Also high-grade Oryx 78-2 for a size comparison. This thing's big. And speaking of big, next up is the bazooka. There's the Oryx 78-2 once again. For comparison, this thing is ridiculously detailed, just like we would have seen before, matching details to the unit. We do have a moving handle up front. Around on the back end, we've got this little section that moves out like so for storage. The magazine section on this containing the missiles is removable, fully detailed missiles inside looking incredible, and this can be stored in a unique kind of way. Basically pulls forward by the handle up front, unlocking the barrel section, and collapses down and around on itself just like so, for storage in the hangar or on the Nu Gundam. Next up in here is the shield, once again, high-grade Oryx 78 for scale. This thing is absolutely huge and ridiculously impressive. There is so much going on here. Again, paint round front, round back, absolutely incredible. We've got these beautiful psycho plates on it, and this shield does include something that I think is unique to this figure, which is a bit of a transformation. The psycho plates pop out like so. We do have pull-out mechanisms on this, 2 of which pull it out just like so, and we do have a dropping upper section like this. This looks incredible. This must be for its maintenance or its psycho plate mode, And honestly, this looks like a, well, like a racer from Wipeout to me. This doesn't even look like the Nu Gundam shield anymore. What a transformation. Again, popping it back to normal, just so you can see the difference. The Nu Gundam is a unit that does have two beam sabers. First off is the primary one, which is absolutely beautiful. We've got this little moving section right here, and a cacophony of beams for using with it. First off, we've got a smaller beam that pops in just like so. That is what that looks like. We've got that main big curved beam with a nice pearlescent finish that pops in just like so. This thing is lengthy huge, RX-78 for comparison, and we do have a smaller blade for a round on the bottom for this dual blade mode. I will also mention that the pin on this particular beam is made out of metal, so it does mean it is a lot stronger than your average connector. Nice. The Nu does have a supplementary beam saber on the back of its arm. You can open up the rear of the arm like so, pop it out. We do have a different beam for using with this. It's neither metal pinned or pearlescent coating, which is a little bit sad, and that right there is what it looks like. Now when it comes to actually attaching the equipment onto the Nu Gundam, first off, when you're attaching things into the hand, it is a double peg folding system. So you pop out the peg in the hand, pop out the peg in the weapon, and it attaches in just like so. There's the beam rifle for reference, and it does look incredibly nice, but again, not a whole lot of postability on this particular machine. Attaching the shield is as simple as clipping it onto the back of the arm, just like so. It does block the other beam saber though. When it comes to the big bazooka, it collapses in half like we've seen before. We've got a dropping mechanism on the backpack, which aligns a little section for sliding this down into very nicely. However, it is a little bit floppy, but the stand will hold it in position when you've got it on the stand. Lastly, then we've got the beam sabers. One pops into its arm and the other up in its backpack, just like so. But let's check out the most impressive accessory in here, the hanger. So if the metal structure Nu Gundam wasn't awesome enough already, we do have a full hanger display in here as well. Now once you get this out of the box, it does look relatively regular at first, like any Bandai Gundam figure base, but it's what you build onto it that truly changes it. First off, at the center of this we do have the arm for holding onto the Nu Gundam itself, which is built up to have pistons and various aspects, giving it that kind of hanger flair. The upper section on this, which does attach into the Nu Gundam's back, is made out of a metal too. Next up, we've got some aspects for holding onto the weapons on the side. These little racks for racking up the weapons. One has a grabby aspect, that's for holding on to the bazooka on the left hand side. Then we've one for the right hand side, which is a little bit simpler with no articulation, for the shield and the beam rifle. We've got two light units which attach onto the base like this and this. Attaching the Nu Gundam onto this is very easily. You just kind of position it above the attachment point. It almost drops on itself. You do need to give it a little bit of a push to lock it in, but it does the job, does it perfectly, and it's perfectly level so the feet do fit in the ground. You can raise it up and down though, so if you do want the Nu in the sky a little bit, you can do that. But it is these right here that really make the difference. These are attachable catwalk aspects which do have articulation to get them out of the way. This really is what does give it that hanger-esque feel. We've got clear parts on the little railing sections on it. Overall, it's really nice. Onto this you attach on a bunch of articulated crane aspects and arms, some of which do have some nice dangling crane parts in various different lengths, and you can pop on whichever ones you do like. These are articulated, they do move around. You can actually attach some stuff like the weapons or the limbs onto them, so that is pretty cool too. So now that the hanger is pretty much put together, it's time to test out the lights on this. Now first off, I will mention there are lights inside of the actual Nu Gundam itself, two light units inside of its torso. That is for its eyes, the sensor on its shoulder, and the cockpit. However, you do require LR41 batteries for this, which I do not have. I never have, and when I do get them, they eventually end up expiring and I never use them again. So that is my only kind of gripe with this. I do feel like this could have had some kind of rechargeable batteries in it, and a USB-C charging aspect to the base itself, so when the Nu Gundam is attached in, it will charge up and you can use the lights. Needing actual batteries in this day and age in a figure is a little bit wonky. They die all the time, taking them in and out is a pain, and that is a little bit disappointing. You'll also need 4 AAA batteries for attaching into the light units around front. Now I turned off all the lights to actually try these out because I had them on with the lights on and you don't see anything. These are quite weak. I had to turn off pretty much every light in the office just to see how they would work, and it pretty much only works in pitch darkness. Now, Speaking of which, in pitch darkness, it does look quite nice. These only really do shine up to the crotch, really, so I assume you need to have your other light units on in the head and cockpit to kind of finish the whole thing off. However, I do feel if this was USB powered with rechargeable batteries inside of it, it would have been much better. Again, maybe it's just me, not a fan of batteries. Too high maintenance and kind of awkward. But anyway, it's about time to get all the equipment onto the hangar bays. So when it comes to the weapons in here, they just attach onto the racks on the side. The bazooka can attach into these nice opening and closing aspects on the left-hand side. The shield and the beam rifle just slot in on the right-hand side. It's very, very nice. You can actually attach them onto the Gundam itself if you do prefer. But one of the funnest and coolest aspects about this particular model is we do get this little package full of maintenance dudes as well. This is so much fun. They're on clear little bases. We've got a bunch of different types. Some are on little stands that you can just pop in and around all over the place on it. Some of them have these nice wired aspects which attach into the back of the little floating guys. These then attach up into the bottom of the catwalks for these zero gravity maintenance guys flying around the Nu Gundam. From a lot of angles, these pretty much, well, you wouldn't even notice the pipes, so they look like they're actually just floating there, but the pipes as well look like maybe they're for air or just to tether the maintenance crew. On top of that, we do have a scale figure of Amuro Ray as well. I'm going to pop right in front of the opening cockpit, looking awesome. And overall, this just nets you the most awesome hangar scene around. About to get more awesome, by the way. We've got opening hatches. So once again, releasing the metal structure Nu Gundam from its plastic bonds to check out what might be the coolest aspect about this particular figure. That is all the opening hatches for the Psycho Plate mode, as well as all of the opening hatches for the Open Hatch mode. So I guess we're going to start off straight away with the Psycho Plate. Down at the lower leg, all you have to do is pull up the knee to make all of these sections pop out to show that gloriously pearlescent green through blue fade Psycho Plate underneath. We've got a sliding mechanism on the back of the heel, another pull aspect on the back of the leg which opens up around the calf, and on the sides of the calf we've pull out and slide up mechanisms as well, showing us some more details underneath, not just the Psycho Plate. I found the upper leg to be a little bit more difficult. First, we've got a locking mechanism up here that pulls out, which is a little bit on the stiff side, and then you're able to pull the armor backwards on this to expose the Psycho Plate beneath. Then you have to kind of bend everything into position, and there are some stiff parts that do make this a little difficult. Also, once you actually have them out, it's very easy to grab it by accident and close it up again, making it difficult to kind of get back out again, if you know what I mean. Looks good when done though. At the front skirting, we've got those nice pull mechanisms. Once again, you just pull one aspect and the rest all folds out perfectly, and this is on both sides. Flipping around to the butt flap, here we do have a lift section as well as a drop down extra vernier inside of the butt. There are more opening vernier sections and thruster sections back here. These red parts pop open, 2 verniers on either side, and these plates open up to double the size of this vent thruster section on the butt flap. The shoulders are incredibly designed. We've got a locking mechanism that unlocks by pulling down one of the thrusters, and then you just literally pull the shoulder and everything just springs out just like so perfectly. Then lock back up the locking thruster section and it looks glorious. Finally, the arms have these little pull-out sections on the sides of the forearms, and when it comes to the right arm, we do have this almost Unicorn Gundam kind of folding out section to the armor on the back of it, and that is it. This right here is what the metal structure Nu Gundam looks like with all of its Psycho Plate exposed, looking incredibly nice. The Psycho frame being actually in that metallic green into blue fade is like nothing I've ever seen before. This is some of the most premium paintwork I've ever seen on a figure. It is just jaw-dropping, and this is really only half of the transformation. We also do have some more hatches for the open hatch mode, which we might as well check out now. First off, you do have to close the front of the leg to access a hatch that is in the top of the foot, which slides out like so, with more of that gorgeous Psycho Plate. The rest of the legs remain unchanged, but when we move up to the skirting armor, at the front we do have an opening section at the top and the bottom of the crotch area, as well as 2 additional opening thruster panels in the front skirtings. In the shoulders, you just pull down and open the locking mechanism we would have seen before, just this time you leave it open. Around in the backpack, you can open up and extend this little section right here where the wing funnels attach on and see some internal detail. The same goes with these little sections here. You pull out these little fins just like so, and then full big maintenance hatches on the backpack open up and outwards, showing some more of the NU's interior detail. Moving up a little further then to the torso, we've got the full opening cockpit section right here. We do have a sliding door just for the cockpit itself on top of that, and inside of that cool ball section that is the actual cockpit of the Nu Gundam, we do have a sliding opening door on that too, and inside we do have an ammo, and if you have batteries, there's lights in there to boot. The yellow frame sections around the vents in the chest pop out forward and move out to the sides like so. Again, nice chest maintenance hatches. And finally, when it does come to the hatches on the head, we have 3 of those. You grab the back of the Gundam Mohawk, pull it up just like so, which releases some aspects around back, allowing you to pull out and open the cheek aspects that are around the vents in the face. That's the final aspect, and it opens it up so nicely. So that right there is the Nu Gundam with all of its hatches, all of its psycho plate aspects all opened up. So even though this kit did not have too much when it came to actual dynamic articulation of the mecha itself, all the articulation on this is dedicated to the opening, hatches, maintenance aspects, and the psycho plate underneath. So again, this is a figure that is definitely more for people who like mechanical detail and the functional mechanical aspects of a mecha's design, as opposed to it pulling off cool, over-the-top anime poses. So yeah, when it does come to the metal structure Nu Gundam, this right here is the end game. From when you're getting this out of the box, this is your final destination. It up on the hangar with the hangar crew all around it with all of those maintenance hatches open. It is the ultimate display. Get this into a nice shelf with plenty of space around it, get it lit up nicely, turn on its lights, which again could be a little bit better, and it will make the ultimate Nu Gundam display. Now for me right now, the big question is, how will the 1/60th scale unleashed Gunpla version of the Nu Gundam compare to this? I can imagine it's going to be very similar in a lot of design aspects, but if it is like the 1/60th scale Gundam RX 78-2 Unleashed we saw, it will have cool mechanical detail, layer upon layer upon layer, and probably even more detail than this figure has. It's kind of the advantage model kits do have. I do hope it does kind of build on the foundation the RX 78-2 did kind of set, because my biggest kind of gripe with that particular kit is there was nothing really extra for it. You couldn't get a stand for posting it in the air, even though it had great articulation. There was no kind of display options by Bandai out there, like a hanger or something similar. It would be nice to see some more stuff come out, either with the perfect grade Nu Gundam or coming out available for that kit. Anyway, once again, if you do want one of these figures of your own, I will throw a link down there in the description. I got mine through BUYEE. What do you hope to see when it does come to the perfect grade Nu Gundam Unleashed? Drop that down there in the comments. But anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gundam videos, and I will see you next time. Once again, I can't finish this video right here without special thanks to the channel members and the patrons over on Patreon, including Simon Paskin, Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Joe, RG59061, ShadowWolf179, Van Fawn, and Scotty Thomas.